Gurgenidze is white, Mikhail Tal is black. We see a Benoni defense from Tal. This was his specialty, and the reason for it is he knows exactly how to dance his knights around and create a good attack. Gurgenidze plays bishop to e2 here. This turns out to be a slight mistake. Of course it's theory, but against Tal you don't want to play passive. You want to play something like h3, which is a more modern, probably common move, and you want to stop the attack on g4. He comes to realize this after a few moves. After Tal shifts his pieces around, he plays knight to g4, which on the engine is a mistake, but against someone that's not prepared for it, it's a psychological advantage. Here he tries to kick away the knight, and Tal plays knight takes f2. The reason why I like this game is because this isn't the only knight sacrifice. There's actually 2 knight sacrifices from Tal. And here Gurgenidze, he doesn't need to take the knight, it can be equal in position here. Gurgenidze makes the crucial mistake of playing taking the knight, which is crazy because Tal can now control everything. Queen to h4, king goes back, bishop to d4, and now there's this net almost. Not quite a mate net yet, but it's certainly building up to be completely in his favour. Gurgenidze plays knight to d1 to stop the threat of f2 mate, and Tal sacks his queen. And you're like, wow, okay, that must be it. No, it's not it. But if he took, Tal would have won with checkmate. We see bishop to f3. Tal just wants to move his queen out of the way so the pawn can't take anymore. Knight comes up f5, which is a mistake, but it's also breaking at the center, and it's still in Tal's advantage. Knight to c4. Tal wants to pin that knight. Now Tal wants to double up on the e-file and just kind of simplify, maybe get rid of the bishop so that he can take the pawn. And that's what he does. Now he needs to get rid of the knight, which he does. And now the pawn on g2, it's fair game. He could take it right now, but I guess the king could run away and be safe, and it wouldn't make sense. So he takes the knight on c4. Queen takes back. And the reason why this is bad is because it just runs straight into this situation where he has nowhere to go but back to d1 now, but he's no longer running away. Gurgenidze is losing here because Tal can just play checkmate. Here we have our game 2, Aronian versus Anand. Anand is black, Aronian is white. And Anand decides to play a very sound Slav defense, which is very theoretically pure, and also, you know, bishop d6, bishop b7, it's scoping in on the king side. Similar to the last game, we see knight to g4 here, but this time it's a brilliant, and that's because Aronian can take on f8. Is this a good move for Aronian? Absolutely not, because of this check. And then there's going to be a forced mate no matter what from here. You know, he could delay it like this, but it wouldn't last that long because we have this system, which eventually leads to checkmate. I mean, is there a quicker way? I think that's the best move. King over, check, king over again. And yeah, it is a nightmare to try to get out of that because it's physically impossible. So, if we go back a few moves and we explore the options, what happens, luckily, is Aronian decides to play f4. This kind of blunts the bishop on d6 a little bit, but doesn't completely stop the attack. Anand takes on d4, Aronian takes back, and now we see bishop to c5, and I really would never have seen this move in my life if I studied this position for a year, because it just looks like you're giving the bishop. It looks like you're giving it up, but really Anand is up a tempo because he can attack this knight at some point, and also, let's say, pawn takes the bishop. You're double attacking this bishop. Your knight is up here threatening attacks, and then you also have a queen check in the center on d4. So it's a nice position for Anand, even though it looks a little bit strange. It's still very, very fruitful for him. What actually happens in the game is Aronian plays bishop to e2, and then Anand sacrifices his knight on e5. The d pawn can't take because it's pinned to the king. The f pawn could take, but this would result in checkmate in pretty much 2 moves. A beautiful smothered mate with the queen sacrifice. Or Aronian could defend with his pieces for just a few moments before the checkmate. Either way, it's the same result. So, he doesn't take that knight, but he decides to take the knight on g4. Now, Anand takes the tempo here and checks on d4 with his bishop. The king's forced into the corner, and then we see g4 recapturing. And now, look at this scope Anand has. He's up 2 points in the engine, and he has so much scope. It's ridiculous how much scope he has. And then he's going to bring the queen in also. So anybody that knows chess is going to know how to play this position well. From here, Aronian says, okay, let me get that rook. And Anand locks down the position with f5. The knight jumps back, queen f6 by Anand. And we see this move here. Now, unfortunately, Aronian couldn't take the knight because it would be checkmate because of this bishop here. So, in this position, we see queen to e2. Queen comes to h5, and now the threat of mate is becoming more and more serious, especially with these two monster bishops along the diagonals here. Queen comes to d3, and then we have a brilliant move, just cutting the queen off from here. You know, if the bishop takes, it's over. It's a wrap. It's a mate and net. There's no way out. Let's say he tries to delay it. Aronian wants to delay the mate. It's gonna come. It's gonna happen no matter what. I don't know. Let's say it like that. Yeah, that's a wrap. Come on. That's a winning position. Mate in 7 moves. Wow. So that's game 2. We're moving on to our final game. Kasparov versus Topalov, 1999. This is considered to be Kasparov's immortal game because of the amount of sacrifices played. I like this game because Kasparov leaves his knight on a5, and it's forced to be taken by the king because of the sequence displayed. So let's get straight into it. Kasparov takes on d4. Topalov takes back. Then we see rook to e7 check. If the queen takes here, it's actually a forced checkmate because the king has nowhere to go. If the queen stops, it's checkmate in 1. If the bishop stops, it's checkmate in 2 moves because everything's locked up. Now this doesn't happen. What happens is it's ignored and the king moves forward. Kasparov checks the king and the king's practically forced to take the knight. Kasparov then plays b4, attacking the king again. The king's stuck in the mate net with the threat of mate in 1 on b3. Now, of course, Topalov's not going to go for the rook, and he's not going to let this happen. So he takes in the center, and now Kasparov wants to threaten checkmate in 1 again. Topalov tries to stop this. Kasparov sacks his rook, again offering up the rook to Topalov, but Topalov's not going to take it. We see queen to c4, trying to trade off the queens, trying to simplify. Kasparov takes on f6, and then Topalov takes on a3. This is a bit of a mistake because it opens up the position and gives Kasparov a little bit more play. Kasparov takes on a6, and then we see Topalov take on b4. Now Kasparov plays a key idea here, and that idea is c3, forcing either the queen or the king to come forward. Now if the queen had taken, it's a pretty easy checkmate. It's fairly simple. Topalov takes with the king. Then we see queen to a1 check, queen to b2 check, and bishop to f1. A nice move because if the queen takes, there's going to be a check here, rook check, and it's going to be checkmate for Kasparov. It goes on just for another moment here. Rook to d2, the best move by Topalov. And then there's this trade down. And from here, Kasparov's winning. You know, he has a queen, he has nearly the same amount of pawns. And Topalov, out of respect, resigns. Beautiful sequence, beautiful game. And that would make my number 1 for Night Chess Sacrifices. So, thank you for watching. If you have any video suggestions or you have any better sacrifices that I might have missed, let me know. I'll probably look into it and maybe I can make a better revised video in the future. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you're all having a great day, great night, wherever you are. Enjoy your chess. I'll see you later.